You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So this week, I noticed an awful lot of, was it the trailer? I didn't watch it for Bill and Ted's Next Adventure, the
I feel like
sequel.
I've been seeing that trailer for like 4 years now. But
okay, but
yes,
what happened this week? Something happened. There was like it
got bumped. Like
it got bumped. It's going to come out earlier now, right?
Yeah. It's moved around a lot, but I think now it's coming out earlier.
Okay, so I've never seen the original.
Me neither.
Oh,
I don't think I have either.
what? I thought I was coming in with like everyone's going to be really judgy here.
A real confession? No.
Yeah, I have never seen. I've also, while I'm talking, I've also never seen Dude, Where's My Car? Now, I don't know why I put them in my head as similar. Are they?
I don't think so. I was thinking about them more in relation, like, I've seen Wayne's World. I've never seen Bill and Ted's. And that's like sort of the buddy comedy weird things that I think about as being related.
Well, the thing is, I generally like a buddy comedy. Like did you not like Wayne's World?
I love Wayne's World. I also love Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Right?
One of
that
my
was
favorites.
a good one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one too. Yes.
I love those movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also
was
obviously
inspired to eat at White Castle because of those movies.
I bet you just pointed on
White
that
Castle's
front.
amazing.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just also want to mention here that for confessing, I've also never seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Haven't seen that either.
Yeah.
Nope.
So, so I don't know. Do I need to, I don't even know if I'm going to go see this new one.
I mean, I feel like
or see it, or when it comes on Netflix or something.
I feel like I'll watch all three together. Like, I love making a trilogy out of it. That's really fun for me.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like, I think that could be fun.
Look at their young little faces. Can you see?
But how much time would that take up in your life to watch
a trilogy of Bill
6
and
or
Ted?
7 hours?
But I mean, is that worth it?
I mean, it's less than Fast and the Furious.
What do you have going? Huh? What do you got going that this is not something you can commit to?
I feel like there's a line, and
what?
For me,
what?
watching the previous Bill and Ted's dips below that line. There are millions of movies I haven't seen before.
But do they have the pop culture resonance?
That's the
of
thing.
Bill
I
and
think
Ted's
the
Excellent
pop
Adventure.
culture resonance is sort of interesting.
We've been pretty crazy about Keanu Reeves on this podcast. So
I do love Keanu Reeves. One of my friends, Alex Winter, was his childhood best friend. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
He interviewed him for like the magazine we had like a really long time ago. But like this one is sort of interesting to me because Bill and Ted apparently both have daughters in it, and like so they're trying to make this third iteration of Bill and Ted like a bit more of like a sort of, I believe, like a sort of coming of age like young girl journey. And I'm intrigued with that being something that's of interest to both Keanu and Alex, and I think that that's kind of cool.
So it's called Face the Music, the new one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gathering that there's something they have to face that they don't want to. Is that?
Well, I think
something
that they had like, I think that they had a band maybe at some point in the first film, and then in the second film they wrote a song or something, and it gets really super surreal. I know there's like a time traveling phone booth. Anyway, it's like super stoner wackadoo kind of stuff. So I think in the third one they're doing more time traveling again, because I know in the trailer they visit themselves in the future in prison, and they're both wearing like giant muscle fat suits that are very funny, I have to say.
Are we in the first or the second or the third now?
The trailer for the third.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it could be fun, but I understand like you don't want to devote, 8 hours of your life, AG, like that's fine.
But I've been like, again, I feel like I should make a commitment here on the podcast. So to be held accountable. because this Fast and Furious thing has really intrigued me. And I think I may need to do it.
Do it.
What are there, 9 of them again?
Like 9, yeah. 8 or 9.
9. Okay.
We actually rewatched the last 45 minutes of Shaw and Hobbs last week because Carlos was like, you know what? I kind of slept through it the last 45 minutes.
Was that 10 or is that 9 then?
That's like number 9 basically. And so we rewatched the last 45 minutes. Didn't regret a thing about that. I loved it.
So are all of them on Netflix?
They're somewhere. They're like between Prime and between Netflix and between Crave. You've got like most of them all covered.
But yeah, you don't want to just do the 1 and 2. You want to keep going because it starts slow.
Once that car's going, you got to keep it going, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the thing I worry about for you, Lisa, is because I know that you have like a better off switch than I do, and I will stick with something even if it's not great until it gets good, and you will be like, no, I'm not doing this.
That speaks really my lack of commitment. That's why I needed to make a commitment here.
Oh, okay.
I think one of us should commit, and not me, should commit to watching the Bill and Ted trilogy. So you can explain it to the rest of us because it's come up a couple times and none of us really know the plot of the movies.
Yeah,
I will commit to watching the first one. I will watch the first one.
Okay, I'll watch all 3. That's fine.
Well, I will watch it eventually, but I don't know by.
Also, though, like I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna eat like a THC gummy and watch all 3, so I might not be able to recall perfectly.
I just
want to be clear about that.
Because it just comes up so much if like one of us actually knows what they're talking about.
No, that would be
It would
great.
be handy if one of us could, how it's important to see Citizen Kane or
I can explain Citizen Kane.
Yeah,
but I can also
I've seen Citizen Kane.
I can also explain several soap operas in alarming detail.
Same. And I don't consider that to be somehow different.
No, it's not that different. I also, though, do understand why I could never have been a skateboarder girl because I didn't leave my house that much and I watched a lot of television as a child and I was not out like doing the whole cool kids at a skate park. That was not my life. This is why, even though I haven't seen Bill and Ted's, I was just an indoor kid, and that's.
Are we segueing?
That's my segue.
Ah, well done, well done.
I mean, was it though? Because
you had to ask.
I was curious where we were going, and then I remembered the topic of our podcast today. So, yeah.
Wonderful. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you are listening to Pop This.
The Betty edition.
Yeah. Oh, Pop This Betty would be so cute. Oh my God.
Pop This Betty. Except for the term Betty is not used positively. So.
I mean, I guess, but like I feel like there's a real reclamation. So don't worry. I think like we're taking it back. This is a show that I had recommended a few weeks ago. You guys were like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm so happy that we did. I still, at that moment when I had recommended it, I had only watched the first 3 episodes. Today we're only going to talk about the first 2. And I am still saving the last 3 episodes. Even in these uncertain times, I still sometimes defer pleasure to a point later in my life where I will need it. And I am so glad I have deferred the last 3 episodes because I need them this weekend and I can't wait to watch them.
It's not, when you recommended it last week, when I went to watch it, it's not what I was expecting.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was or I'd never heard of it. So, like, how did you come across it and what made you watch it?
Well, I had read about it earlier this year in a few different places. Particularly, like I love sort of getting a heads up on like shows that center young women, particularly shows that have like a number of POC characters at the front, where it's not just like when you're in New York, a large group of like 6 white women is ridiculous, as like a young friend group. And so I'm always sort of on the lookout for shows that have like a diverse cast, shows that are about young women, and shows that like are made by young women. And this hit all of those sort of buttons. And so I remember being really excited about it, and then it came. There wasn't a ton of press around it, and but I knew that the press that had existed was pretty positive. And
well, it has been picked up for a second season, so
yeah. So then when we finally watched it, the first episode, I was just like, oh, this is. Plus, I love shows set in New York about New York. Like, it's just one of my favorite cities in the whole world, and I always just have like a little piece of my heart there. And like, I lived there for 5 months when I was 20, and it's just, you know, this was not like, skateboarding was not my life, but like, there's an energy to being in New York City when you're 20 that just feels kind of incredible and unlike anything else in the whole world.
One of the things I read in Variety was they said that Betty looks like how being a teenager feels. And that totally hit home for me. And, you know, like when I was watching the show, it was just this constant, like, was I ever that young? You know, like, because the show just like conveys this feeling of like the wild abandon of teenagehood. So
but also, what I also thought it did really well was just that that sense of like being ready for something, but you're not quite, and there's an unease, and you're trying to fit in with certain people, but you're not sure who. So there's this sense of, there's such a tension in it. Like there's and plus they're girls, and plus they're trying to skateboard. So it's quite fraught, I found as well, which also is teenage years.
Yeah, there is like there's this feeling of unease because, you know, or at least I always think like shows that a lot of shows that are sort of set, or that previously have been set in a group of amongst a group of young women, it's really about sort of always a threat, right? Like there's always some sort of like threat from the outside. And I mean, at the very we see like there's a lot of not great stuff around them, but you know, at least by the 3rd episode when I got there, like I was starting to feel like I could breathe a bit more, and like it didn't feel to me like, I felt like I could trust the filmmaker and the writers, that they were not going to necessarily just like hurt these young women that I cared about so much, you know? Mm-hmm. Like it felt a little like, the deeper I got into the series, it felt like it was not like lower consequences, but like it felt like it was not going to be traumatic necessarily.
Yeah.
We should rewind and talk about
we should tell people what
background
it is.
And like the synopsis. Yeah, sure. That sounds good.
We can do all those things. Sure.
Look, we love getting ahead of ourselves. I'm happy to read the background if you like.
Go for it.
And I'll do synopsis.
Cool. Betty is an American teen comedy television series created by Crystal Moselle. The series is based on Moselle's 2018 film Skate Kitchen. It includes most of the cast of the original movie and focuses on the group's efforts to stand out in New York's predominantly male world of skateboarding. The 6-episode series premiered on HBO on May 1st, 2020, and in June 2020, the series was renewed for a 2nd season.
And the synopsis. The 6-episode series introduces us to a tight-knit group of girl skaters and follows their everyday lives as they navigate the male-dominated world of skateboarding. The title comes from the derogatory nicknames sometimes thrown at them by men. Beyond that, the girls also discover crushes, tackle problems, and embark on small-time adventures across New York. The main cast is composed of members of the real New York City-based skate collective, The Skate Kitchen. And so, what is it? Five girls getting up to, hijinks and skateboarding.
And I really love, like, I love the fact that these young women are skateboarders first, and actors second. But I thought that they were really compelling actors as well. Like, I thought they did such a great job. Again, we're only going to talk about the first 2 episodes, but like I like when I was first, obviously when I was introduced. Oh, so I should also say, like, there are so many. This is sort of like a group of young women. I had a very difficult time placing ages when I was watching it.
Yeah.
I had no idea if people were supposed to be like 18 or like 20 or 21. Like, I just
are they going to school? I didn't see them go to school in the first 2 episodes. Like
I have no real clue what ages people are in the show. I feel like they've all graduated high school, or at least like they're not in high school anymore. Like, maybe it's like college, kind of like.
Well, it's the summer, so it's hard to tell. No one would be in school in the summer.
It's hard to tell. Yeah, it's super hard to tell. But I really like, there are queer relationships. There are, people figuring out things about their sexuality. There are people navigating difficult relationships with like the few men in their lives. There's like family dynamics. People have different socioeconomic backgrounds. So I really love the sort of expanse of lived experiences of all of these characters. And I have to say, like, a standout for me, obviously, is Kurt. Kurt is maybe one of the funniest characters I've ever come across in my whole life.
There's a sort of vibe to Kurt, like watching here's another teen comedy, Fast Times with Spicoli, just a real
yeah, there's a real Spicoli
kind of joker
vibe.
Like, hey, what, I'll chill, what I like, you're trying to imagine her having a regular conversation, and I don't think I can.
No,
I just I love, because last week we did I May Destroy You, and we were talking about how it gave us a different perspective on London. And I feel like this show does the same for New York. Like, we're seeing New York through the eyes of, girls that we never get a chance to see New York through. And it's fascinating.
The fact that we still have to say girl skateboarder is still makes me pinch my face. Like, it just, I don't, and the fact that there's still issues around it.
Well,
not that it obviously stops people from doing it, which is great, but it's still that's all.
Well, the fact that they have to call themselves, like, they specifically are their own skate collective, and they've named themselves the Skate Kitchen. This is why I love young women. I think they will save the world. I think they are incredible. Like, they are completely doing their own thing in a place where, for the most part, they seem entirely unwelcome, and they know that sort of there's strength in numbers, and being able to have like this collective, naming it Skate Kitchen. I can't wait to watch the movie that sort of like,
this was based on.
That this was based on. Like, I'm so sad that I've never seen it, and I'm.
So are they playing them? Is it like Is it a movie or documentary? Skate Kitchen, the other one, is it documentary?
It's a documentary.
Okay, so it's sort of about them and how they got into skateboarding. Because right now we're just with episode 1. You're just sort of starting that they're already.
Yeah, but I think this series is just they're playing fictionalized versions of themselves that are the same characters from the movie, which is a documentary, which is a bit confusing, but yeah.
But like, I think like, what were your experiences of watching the first few episodes?
I mean, I found that it took me a while because unlike you two, I have seen the entire thing. So it took me a while to really get into it, because it's just, like, the characters have to grow on you, and it's not like, a lot of things are happening in the movie. You're going at this kind of slow pace, and it's about like seeing life through the eyes of these girls and seeing what they're going through, and trying to, skateboard. And I found it took 3 or 4 episodes for me to really get invested in the characters and to understand the pacing of the show and to appreciate kind of the slow way the story unfolds. And it's just like, it's a character sketch of their lives.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not watching every episode to find out what happens next kind of thing.
No, for sure. Yeah.
I think what it does really well too is I guess my impression right away is just that, like you said, character sketch, but also like a time sketch, because it's not afraid to just give you that sense of also that part about being a teen, which is that days are really, really long and you got to fill them in because you don't have a lot of other things you're doing, right? Unless you have a job or something, but they don't in this. So just like, getting high in the back of the van.
That guy, there's always
that Joe Rogan there with his.
There's always a weird.
I don't need water. It's always some Joe Rogan guy, right? It's always some guy who's got some weird theories, selling weird things. But when they were just sitting in the back there, after like part of me was kind of like, this is getting really tiresome. But I thought that's the point. When you're kind of living like this, some of these moments are very tiresome. You're just like getting high in the back of a van, hanging out there for a while, right? It's not like big things are happening to you all day. Like this could be the highlight of the day.
Yeah. Or like your whole day could be about trying to find your backpack.
Yeah, it could be. Which was a very long part as well.
I honestly loved I think the backpack chase was what really hooked me.
We're both Dora and the Explorer. I don't even know what that meant.
I laughed so hard at that.
There's also moments I find where I don't know if it's intentional, but I mean, these girls are, unbelievably smart and brave and cool, and they each have their own very distinct style, which I completely admire. I love the fact that none of them look even remotely alike at all. And they're constantly having to make allowances for these idiot men, like all the time. And even when Camille goes to that guy's house and, she's asking about plants and he's giving her this weird line about how it's providing all this oxygen. And you can just see her like, I don't actually think that's true. And you can see he's like really offended, but then that teenage girls know that you have to talk to them like they're smart. It's like they're children. Like... You can't just tell them that they're full of it because then they won't talk to you again. And the objective is to get them to want you to like you.
Yeah, the pursuit of men and boys who aren't in any way deserving of you is a real
yes,
real
it is
teenage girl thing.
It is. And you're just like again, you're further ahead from me, but I'm just guessing that the situation with the guy who has been accused of something is not going to turn out well.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I do love is that, like, we've got at the very least two characters who explicitly are queer, and they're pursuing, like, Kurt is just widely making like a play for Indigo, and Honey Bear is on her own journey, but she's so quiet, but she's constantly observing. She's always filming. She has like these sort of very like unconfessed crushes, but like Kurt clocks her and knows and understands. And like the other thing that's kind of great is that within the first episode, like, it's not like these 5 girls are all friends right away. Like, Janae and Kurt they meet Honey Bear, and then they meet Indigo, and Camille's kind of like their enemy. But they have to sort of join forces in that first episode. And I like the structure of that. Like, I like, how you really, I mean, it's not the most beautiful hero's journey, A Lost Backpack, but it is like a call to adventure,
yes.
For that first episode. And we see like Janae and Camille sort of like forging this bond. And then we see the way Camille just throws it all away because she has managed to gain access into the boys club and she is not there to be sort of dragged back into like a girl's world, because she's worked really hard, you know, as a skater, and
we've already seen that she's distanced herself already, you know, when they're at the park and stuff, right? Like, she's definitely,
she's got like her own thing.
But that storyline with Janae and her male best friend, I can't think of his name right now.
They used to date and like,
and there's kind of
their YouTube videos though.
Yeah.
Like, before we find out that there have been accusations against him, when they're recording their YouTube video, I really was like, oh my God, this show is entirely unconcerned with my age demographic. And I love it.
Yeah.
But
it was very savvy though too about graffiti.
Savvy.
It was really
it's so
smart.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's just like like they are not concerned with like me, a 41-year-old woman in Vancouver. Like they're not dumbing anything down for me. They're like just putting me in right away into this very specific like world where like, of course, every 20-year-old knows how to like have their own weekly YouTube talk show. Like,
but without
sorry, I didn't
giving
cut you
too
off,
much.
AG.
Oh, that's okay. Without giving too much away about the storyline, they do a really good job in having Janae be that person who's like, she's been best friends with this dude, she's dated this dude, and yet she has to sort of grapple with these accusations when she feels that like she knows this guy and she doesn't think that he's capable of doing that. And so I think that's a really interesting storyline that unfolds in later episodes that you guys have to look forward to.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that actually, because like I feel like we haven't got a lot of models for that so far, and I think particularly young women don't have a lot of models for like sort of figuring out how to hold like just how to hold sort of like the dudes in their life accountable. Like I think it's a really complicated thing, and particularly as we sort of see more and more nuanced levels of predation being sort of talked about as like predatory behavior, because we didn't really have a language for that. Like, I think, like, you know, I remember ages and ages and ages ago, like reading, you know, sort of like a "this happened to me" kind of story, and it was just like, you know, kind of like an irritating date where the guy, like, you know, wouldn't like stop bugging her, harassing her to like kiss and stuff like that. And I remember even just like 10 years ago, I would have been like, that's a sucky date, but like, you know, whatever. All of us have gone through that. Not a big deal. And I love the movement we have where we can say, no, that is a big deal, and we shouldn't normalize that, and we can't accept that. And like being able to sort of like have some language around talking to people about, you know, enthusiastic consent and what that looks like, and like not having like a zero tolerance policy for anything that is not enthusiastic consent. So like having shows like this model that's great. I'm very excited about,
especially in our time where I only half joked on Twitter that if I mute sexual misconduct in my Twitter feed, will it be empty?
Truly.
And
like
it's very bad right now. It is, and you know, I don't know. I'm not worried about the weeding out of the comedians. Actually, that makes me laugh.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine. Yeah.
That they're just dropping like flies, and all these people have to go, and they always say this very creepy thing, and this is a really big part of this show too, is that you've heard them, this one recent comedian that was outed, that there were women at roasts saying that their girlfriends were young.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that's just acceptable?
Yeah.
And so in this show, we really get a sense of that they know that about themselves. They know, like, the creepy old man with the keys and the, you know, all these stories, and the way that people, like, one of them doesn't even want to, I think it's Indigo, doesn't even want to go to the skate park because she said, I just can't deal with all these men staring at me.
Yeah.
Like, that's so depressing that you just can't even go. It's so depressing. And I think when shows are taking that on as opposed to like a storyline instead of just a constant threat and theme and a feeling. And I think that show does that really, really well, just recognizing that this is the reality for girls this age if they want to go outside their homes.
I know. Have either of you ever been like skateboarders?
I skateboarded. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But I'm a bit of that's probably why I put my name down here to be Camille, because that's, I even have those glasses.
Like in high school?
Yeah.
Were you good?
Fine. I was fine. I had a accident and hurt myself quite badly. So.
Oh no.
Oh, it was okay. It was just this friend and I, we went down a hill together. We would do this thing where we put the skateboards across from each other and go back and forth. And we just picked up speed. It was it wasn't, when I think about it now, I'm just can't even.
Physics.
Yeah, like, what's going to happen if we started this very high hill doing this back and forth thing? It's not. Anyway, we went like straight into a ditch and tumbled really hard, and I got really hurt. Like not have to go to the hospital, but lots of bumps and bruises and cuts, and it was a little bit hard to get back on again. I'm going to be honest. Like there's a feeling that I had then that the speed wasn't what I enjoyed first. Like I really enjoyed that part of it, you know? So anyway, there's my skateboard story.
That's awesome. AG, did you ever
I've never skateboarded. No.
I haven't either. And I mean, I am also afraid of the physics of going downhill, gaining speed and not being able to stop. Like, I understand hypothetically you can just jump off, but it just always seems like,
you can
no,
jump
you
off and
can't.
hurt yourself. No, you can't.
Well,
really.
yeah. So like it just, but I always have loved, those like skateboarding competitions that were really big in the 90s, and like they were always with like music festivals. I always enjoyed going to see a concert and then having like I could pivot and turn around and watch a skateboarder do a bunch of tricks.
It was like they just had them in the background, like a bear, like a dancing bear or something on that. I know for some reason.
Are you talking about the Warp Tour?
No, I never went to the Warp Tour. It was there was
something like that though.
There was like a Vancouver music festival for a long time that had like a skateboarding and like music thing, and it was a bunch of different venues. For some reason, it's where I saw 30 Seconds to Mars or whatever. Well,
there's no other reason you would have seen that, I'm sure.
No, God, what a nightmare. Do you guys have a favorite character from the show? I know mine's Kurt. But I do love them all.
I'm very intrigued by Honey Bear's whole situation.
Love Honey Bear's situation.
I don't know. I mean, that's a bold move to go from just, walking out the house in that sweater to pasties later. Like
so much great fashion in this show, right?
Like, there really is.
Their style is amazing.
And that's why I feel sort of this bond toward Camille, and I can't help it. It's just because that's how I dress. That's how she sort of, there's this vibe that she has that I get. I don't know. It's like it was like the way I felt growing up, which was not uncomfortable, but it was like, it wasn't that I was a tomboy, but it wasn't like I was only wanting to wear men or boys' clothes, but I would find a way to wear them, but still feel like myself, if that makes sense. And I sort of watching her, because I think all of the style you can't not talk about because it's such an important part of each of their identities. I mean, never mind the whole skateboarding culture and fashion, but in this show in particular, these girls, each of them, it's a very distinct look they have. In fact, one of them gets scouted, right? Which is a sort of meta to me, right? Because they must have been scouted for her original movie, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, Indigo gets scouted immediately. And Indigo is, like, incredibly striking, like, just very beautiful, very stylish. Like, I completely get why Kurt is, like, head over heels for Indigo kind of immediately. Like, I think the part that endeared me to Kurt so much was when Kurt's like, I can't help it if my smush vibes are the same as my friend vibes. I was like, dude, been there.
And then we've also got some characters that I don't think we know a lot about yet and what they're.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, because I've seen the whole thing. I kind of took turns in, like, being interested in each character, and I got invested in everybody, and there wasn't a storyline where, because you know how sometimes you're watching a thing and there's different characters and different storylines, and you kind of tune out to the ones that you're not really that interested in, but it just doesn't happen here. You're all, they're all equally compelling in their own storylines, and so yeah. I don't really have a favorite. I liked all of them.
That's good. That's really nice. And that's sort of like it's kind of one of the reasons, like, by the time I got to episode 3, why I was so in love with it and why I, like, was excited to tell you guys about it, even though apparently I did a terrible job describing what it was going to be about. I don't
know what I thought it was going to be, but wasn't this arty, this beautiful, moody, artistic, which it is. It's just, it's absolutely beautiful.
Shot so beautifully. Like this, in the same way as I May Destroy You gave me those pangs for a pre-COVID life in terms of sort of the filming and the freedom to move and the ways in which I think like movement are and travel and like bodies are so integral to I May Destroy You. There's exactly a similar thing happening in Betty. When they're really down low and following them on the skateboards and they're like pivoting through or like weaving through traffic, when they're like running up and down and like they're in this like little mall in Chinatown, like when they're like going through stalls and trying to like tracing this backpack, like when they're trying some of these tricks and taking risks and falling down, and like you can feel every bruise, and when is it Janae taking the picture of the bruise? I can't remember who's taking the picture.
At the beginning.
It's been a few weeks, but the character taking the picture of the bruise is like sort of like proof that they're badasses, and
badge of honor.
And I love every frame of the way it is filmed.
Yeah, no, I think I think that I wasn't expecting it to be quite, this sounds funny because skateboarding's sort of fast and quite, it's a quick sport, right? I don't know, like, I think it's nice that Kurt tries to sell Indigo by it's a chill sport, because I do not think of skateboarding as a chill sport. I mean,
Kurt just
maybe
wants... Kurt's
Kurt
looking
wants...
for those smushes, so,
Yeah, exactly. So, so I think the fact that it's got sort of a slower pace to it is kind of interesting, since skateboarding is sort of fast and a little bit brutal in some ways, right? Because it's the only way you're going to be doing weird tricks like somehow lifting your skateboard to go down a stair railing is because you've hurt yourself very, very many times before.
Yeah, like everything's like a little bit broken somehow.
Yeah. Well, the number of injuries, I also like to watch shows where people hurt themselves. Like Jackasses. And I think even in Jackass, they were all like, wasn't Johnny Knoxville a skateboarder before?
He was definitely a skateboarder, yeah.
Yeah, and a bunch of them on that show. I think Bam Margera is a skateboarder, but they love to go into detail about their many, many injuries, which just makes me like, I don't care. I'm so bored. You did this to yourself. You didn't like trip on the stairs. But anyway, that the fact is their bodies are very broken if this is the sport you want to choose to do. Yeah,
and this also reminds me, I don't know if you were able to see it, but there was a documentary called On Falling, directed by Josephine Anderson and produced by Joella Cabaloo, who is a friend of our podcast and an avid listener.
Oh, Joella listens all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, debuted at Tribeca. And it's about 3 professional women mountain bikers, and it's sort of the same thing because like mountain biking is very male dominated, and they talk about all like the action shots are incredible. It shows them like crashing over the bars of their bikes and all the bumps and bruises that they get, and it's terrifying, and it's amazing, and it's a great documentary, and it's on the Tribeca website right now if anyone wants to watch it.
On Falling.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's lessons.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love to do, obviously, is, and we all love to do, is like read analysis of stuff that we're interested in. And AG, you put together some good quotes here. But one of the things I wanted to like talk about is just the first thing is like the perspective of New York, which Ashley D. Stevens talks about in Salon. I'm just going to read a quick quote. A dominant theme in Betty is the idea that skating provides a temporary escape from sexism, from racism, from trouble with family and friends. This is the show's main appeal to viewers, too. The series' ample extended shots of these young women of divergent racial and cultural backgrounds traversing New York City on their boards, embracing both their athleticism and freedom, are almost meditative. And I think that's such a perfect encapsulation of one of the things that are like one of the most appealing things about this show for me is that, yeah, this is a perspective of New York that's, like you said, up at the top of the podcast, AG, is we so rarely get to see, and so many perspectives like in this collective of women.
And I think that, sorry, I was just going to say that she makes that, Janae makes that, I think that, or Camille says to Janae when she said she had that creepy bus driver, when she says, that's why you skateboard, because it's your freedom then. You can just take off and do whatever you want. Like, so that's expressly said that there's an understanding that this skateboarding represents being able to flee if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even just seeing the perspective of being like New York streets, being on a skateboard. Like when I've been to New York, you usually go underground, take a subway somewhere, and then pop back up and you're walking around, or, like you don't have that same feeling of like gliding through the streets on a skateboard. And I just found that really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I really like the show. I mean, I like the pace of it after you get into it. I guess and the music is, again, another one of those.
The music's so good.
Yes.
Oh my God. The soundtrack is amazing to this show.
It feels like over the time we have done this podcast, that the sort of pressure on these series that we do has got so much higher. There's so much more expected from a show. Like we watched, the I May Destroy You last week, and my jaw was just dropped, and I just feel like there's so much more that we're expecting now in these series, and these people are delivering, and it's incredible. But I just feel like from like a couple of I can't remember all the ones we've done, but I don't think they've been quite like what we're watching now.
Yeah, I think like music supervisor has become like a rock star job.
When you're watching Insecure, every episode of Insecure is like an art piece almost.
Well, Raphael Sadiq is the music supervisor for Insecure. And he knows music,
yes.
But also, remember when we did Never Have I Ever?
Yeah,
that soundtrack was amazing.
Soundtrack was amazing. Well, if I think back to like the OC had, even though it's very dated, it had a big influence on a lot of 2000s stuff. It brought us, a lot of Death Cab for Cutie and the Shins and on and on and on. Like it had a big music moment, but it didn't feel as vibrant and exciting as the music we're hearing programmed in a lot of these shows. And I think because
there's more discovery in these ones too, right? There's more of a sense of like, especially in Insecure.
I also think there's like a more of a commitment to like Black artists are the sort of the driving force of the musicianship behind a lot of these shows are Black artists and artists of color. And I think that like for just so long, a lot of mainstream shows really like were mostly playing exclusively white artists because music supervisors were mostly white, and I think we've seen a real sea change also in the types of shows that are being made, the types of shows that are truly allowed to be made now are like from creators who are Black and people of color. So it makes sense to me that like the music is sort of like a feels similarly commanding and breathtaking because that artistry is actually getting showcased.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. But even all the other things you have to add, the other elements you have to add in, like we were saying about the show they were making, like
oh my God, their YouTube show?
Like it's like being able to blend in the reality of young people's lives with social media and wanting to make their own things and do their own things and be part of these scenes. I mean, I think that's funny, the OC, when you think about that, because I mean, that was just people going to high school and they'd come home. Like they literally were not.
The OC is so basic in its conventions of what like young people like, but basically that's a show where young people are, it's sort of carryover from Dawson's Creek, right? Where like young people aren't allowed to be young people. They're being tasked with being old people. And not old even, but like these are 16-year-olds going on 30, right?
Yeah.
Because that was sort of like the idea of what youth was. And I think we're seeing younger and younger creators and showrunners and writers actually, making shows that are relevant to youth culture that maybe aren't going to feel as like dated as like the OC does. And Dawson's Creek too, right? Like that is not a show that holds up because mostly what they were trying to do was like create like a really wordy, like wordy sort of Beverly Hills 90210.
Yeah.
It's
not that.
This feels like actual real teenagers.
But also weirdly, it also feels like art. Like
yes,
yeah.
No, this is a really extremely artfully made show, and and this is one of the things that I'm so excited about for season 2. Like, I mean, I'm not even through season 1 yet, but I will be this weekend after we record this. But like a season 2, I think it will be a very different show because obviously it's going to be made in sort of a COVID existence, and it's going to have to contend with a reality that we're now in that like otherwise. Well, otherwise they wouldn't have had to, but at the same time, like, these are kids who spend a lot of times outdoors, as long as they remain physically distanced, there's lots of skateboarding parks.
But isn't that, again. I haven't even seen yet if it's going to be addressed in every show or if shows are going to just try and get around it. We don't know yet.
I have no idea. I don't think we've seen a couple things we know have been filmed in quarantine. Or are filming, but we don't really know what that looks like.
It would be really hard to do something about New York and not have that mentioned because it really took a toll on that city. Yeah,
but so much of the vibe of the show is, gangs of kids hanging out.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how they manage it.
Well, I mean, gangs of kids hanging out, like, I mean, at least from a Vancouver perspective, like, we know that gangs of kids definitely are hanging out. They just need to do it outdoors, 2 meters apart. Like skateboarding parks are actually probably a pretty great place if you're gonna be in a large group. That's one of the better places you could be, as opposed to like being in a house party. And like even the like outdoor party that they end up attending, at one point, like it. Outside of like, obviously you can't share joints at this point, but like, everyone should have their own vape pens of weed, not share. Like that's just.
Well, that's the future. There you go.
And so I know like we're sort of like wrapping up and stuff here, but like I just wanted to read one more quote, if that's okay, just because AJ, you put them all together so beautifully. But this is a quote from Carenza Cardenas from The Cut. For me, one of the best parts of Betty was the deft way it handles gender. It gives you a look into this community where sexism is quiet but pervasive, where women are still seen as accessories or outsiders taking up deserted space at the skate park, but it also foregrounds the effortless athleticism of the young women of Skate Kitchen, as well as the strength and depth of the bonds they form in the absence of men. And I think that's like such an important distinction for this show, particularly when we see Janae stuck with this like ex of hers who's like kind of, not a good dude, and how toxic he sort of is, taking up this space. Her precious like life is sort of being wasted on this dude. And I think that like, we see so many different kinds of guys in Betty as like these sort of outlier characters. And it's completely true that it's in the moments where they're all gone that we really get like the heart and soul of the friendship between all of these characters, and I love that so much.
Yeah, no, that's what I really like too. Those guys, it's just Plant Guy. Oh God, sorry. Just
I'm scared of where it's going with Plant Guy, and I'm not gonna look at AG because I know that she knows. So I'm just gonna fingers crossed for Camille.
What?
I won't ruin it, but there's an awesome line in one of the later episodes. Kurt says, "We have to stop fighting people's dads."
Kurt. What? Yeah. Truly one of the greatest characters to come out of 2020.
Do we get a sense more of their family life, other than I've only feel like I've met one character's parents?
You get a sense of Indigo's life mostly. Yeah.
Because I feel like that's
kind
of an interesting thing that we don't really know too much about them.
Yeah, the parents aren't really in this yet, except for Indigo's mom. And
Honey Bear's family, her grandma, I guess, and her dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
And we see how she has to throw the backpack out the window, the skateboard out the window, and like absolutely 100%. I've never seen like leading that double life that teenagers are amazing at.
So good at. Oh my God. So good at. I just love it so much. Well, we like to say whether or not something pops in. I know for me, Betty pops big time.
Pops like an ollie.
Oh, wow. Look at you. You just pulled that term out. Woo-hoo. Impressive.
Yeah, that's all
I
I
got. You could tell you were a real skateboarder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't say I could do one, but I could say it. No, it pops a lot. I love it. I think I think it really stands out. I think it's quite unique, too. Like, and also in a world of, like, the stakes are higher now. I mean, I do feel like if you're sitting down to do a show, it's that we're expecting a lot now. And I think that's great, because I think we probably, this is just a guess, but I think over the years, a lot of people have been muted. I think a lot of people had these big ideas and they've been trying to recreate Friends or whatever it is for years. And now, as we've been saying with streaming services, we've been allowed to see so much more creativity, so much more singular vision in a project, in a vision of, an idea of what somebody wants to see. And I think we're all just being blessed with this creativity burst right now.
Yeah, I mean, this show just feels so fresh. It's so gorgeous to watch, and usually, like, I'm not a huge fan of naturalistic acting. I find it a little distracting, but that wasn't the case in this series at all. Like, it just feels like a really, like, something we haven't seen before, and yeah, it was just, that's why I had to watch it the whole way through. Like, I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you guys liked it. Oh my God.
Loved it.
Yay. Can't wait for season 2. And here's to the death of mediocrity getting a free pass in Hollywood.
Right?
Fingers crossed, guys. So we love to recommend something at the end of the episode. And AG, would you like to go first?
Sure. I had a chance to watch I don't know if you saw, but the new Go-Go's documentary
no, I can't wait. Where did you see it?
It's amazing. I love it.
Oh, good.
It was on Crave.
It is. Oh.
Yeah, pretty sure. It's a Showtime production.
Awesome.
But yeah, and it kind of like I grew up when the Go-Go's were super popular, but I had no idea really that they started off as a punk band in LA.
Yeah.
And so this documentary just kind of goes through like how they really got their beginnings and were like, one of the first female punk bands in LA. And then took a hard turn to pop, like when they started getting popular, their rise in music. But yeah, prior to that, there were a few members that were originally in the band that didn't last very long. And it's just this fascinating history of the Go-Go's that
it's on Crave. I can't wait. I'm gonna watch that.
That's awesome. And Lisa, how about you?
Well, there's a podcast from the film company or production company A24 that makes a lot of very interesting indie movies. And one episode in particular I was listening to was a conversation between Ari Aster and the director of The Lighthouse. I don't know if anyone's seen The Lighthouse.
I have not.
Robert Pattinson and
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending it, although I'm sort of glad I saw it. It's intense. Just two men in the 1800s in a lighthouse. All they got to do, I don't want to cast stones here, but all they had to do was just take care of the lighthouse. But everything...
Yeah. I heard somebody say that.
Do not put two dudes in any place away.
I heard somebody say if the movie was about two women, there would be no movie.
They would probably fix up the island.
It
would look better than when they got there.
Drink some wine.
Meanwhile, these two it's like some kind of parable for the decline of civilization, this movie.
Perfect. And timely.
Yeah. So the other director we do know from The Witch and from Midsommar, Ari Aster, and the two of them in conversation. And it's always that fascinating thing when you've seen somebody's film work and you're like horrified by it and they sound so ordinary. Oh yeah, that's kind of interesting. So it was, I enjoyed listening to them talk about making their movies. Also Hereditary, Ari Aster made.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. How can you forget that? I know. So just talking about filmmaking, and I would say that they're interesting because these are very, especially The Witch was a really amazing movie. So good conversation, A24 podcast.
Cool. Thank you. I'm going to recommend a new record by Jody Glenham, who is a singer-songwriter based here in Vancouver. Her new album is called Mood Rock, and it is just a big mood, a soft mood, a lot of mood. This is start to finish. It's 8 songs, but it is it's really basically the end of your longest day. You could put this on, be it whether you're sort of sweating to death in your bed or sitting in a bathtub or crying on your porch or just sitting in a park alone. Whatever it is that you have that you need some companionship with but cannot be around other people, Mood Rock. This album is for you. On every level.
Excellent. I've heard a couple of songs and they were great. Yeah.
Yeah,
good pick.
And there's some real movement in that songs will start out as one kind of song and become a very different song by the end of it, and that's really exciting to me. And also just in general, Jody released her first album in 2005. She's been doing this for 15 years. She's so talented. She's so great. And I feel so oftentimes we have these sort of local treasures of musicians who don't get the sort of big platform that they kind of deserve. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just dive into Jody's back catalog.
Excellent. Well, those are some fine recommendations. We've got you covered.
We sure do. Thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate it and making us a part of your summertime listening, or fall, or future winter, whenever you're
Who knows what time of day or year or month or whatever it is? I can't
even. Yeah, maybe you're not even on this astral plane. Like, what else? You could hang out with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. You could also rate and review us 5 stars.
5 stars always. And our 5-star general here, Andrea Gin, also joining us. There's a segue, hey? Joining us during the COVID times, so we're not so alone.
It's really nice.
My pleasure.
I really, yeah.
Yes.
And I feel strongly, even if we ever do get to, record outside our homes again, I say we make AG just be the permanent third.
I second that.
But who's gonna produce?
Yeah,
anyway?
She didn't have to watch all those things.
Now, we'll have to work on that. Okay, fine.
We'll work on
details.
that. Fine. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.